Welcome. You're listening to the 365 Firsts podcast, a show filled with stories of experiencing first times and all the fun, growth, unknowns, and excitement that go with them. It's also the place to get expert advice, motivation, and inspiration to get in on trying new things. And now, here's your host, the master of first times, and chick you're trying to keep up with, Ann Bernard.
All right, so welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. Great pleasure to be here.
Right. As we learned in your intro, you have quite a rich history with Austin and South by Southwest. And 31 years with South by Southwest, you've obviously seen it grow. Can you give us a little bit of history and how it has progressed and grown over the years?
Sure. 31 years, that's hard to believe. It seems much longer than that, but time flies when you're having fun, right? South by Southwest started as a music-only event in 1987. It was patterned after an event in New York called the New Music Seminar, which was an event where bands like Madonna were discovered, Gang of Four, things like that. And it always attracted, this event called the New Music Seminar always attracted a lot of Austin bands to New York. Again, there was this idea of starting this in Austin. And as a music event, it was pretty immediately successful, tapped into a very rich music scene in Austin. It was a very vibrant scene in 1987 and a scene that remains vibrant to where we are today in 2020. In 1994, we added what was then a film and multimedia event. The reason for adding those is there was a burgeoning film scene in Austin with people like Rick Linklater and Robert Rodriguez, and you had this beginnings of this tech scene and a startup scene with Dell Computer and the various spin-offs from there. That's still essentially the three biggest pillars of the event: music, film, and technology. We've more recently added a comedy element to the event. The event has morphed and changed and transitioned many, many times since those fairly humble roots in 1987. At this point, we cover music, film, and technology, but we also cover food, fashion, style, startups, government, sports, everything that we think is appealing to this digital creative community. And in fact, that focus on creativity is the thread that ties it all together, and it is the thread that ties it back to those roots of 1987. As much as the event has changed in 30 plus years, the focus on creativity is still very much the heart and center of everything that we do at South by Southwest.
Thank you for that brief history. And like I was mentioning to you, I went 10 years ago. I'm going for the first time back this year. And I'm really looking forward to see how it's changed and how it's grown. What's the projected attendance for this year?
In terms of badge holders, we'll have, over the course of the 9 days of the event, somewhere around 50 to 60,000 badge holders. Again, that's over the course of those 9 days. Thankfully, we never have that many people in one place at one time. And I will also say that quantity is certainly much less important than quality. We've been lucky enough to scale a lot over the last 3 decades and grow from this, again, fairly small regional music event to something that is much, much bigger and has an international impact. And scaling is neat and fun. But again, the more important thing is quality. And if we take care of quality, the quantity will take care of itself.
Absolutely. I'm going to break things down a little bit depending on our listeners. So let's start, because you gave us the background. To clarify, for those who have never heard of South by Southwest, it is a music, film, and interactive festival. And like you said, creativity, obviously those three groups and then the additional folks, comedy, food, fashion that you added are all within a bigger community of creative. But when you attend, it's a broad date. So it's a 9-day date, but there's festivals within the festivals. Can you explain that concept a little bit more? So somebody's never heard of it and they're thinking, okay, I might not make it this year, but I'd like to go next year. How do I know what badge I want to buy and how I want to proceed ahead?
Well, first, let me say that South by Southwest is kind of impossible to explain until you actually experience it firsthand. That's my disclaimer, and now I'll try to explain it. But again, it's hard to explain.
It is.
It is a 9-day event that has literally thousands of panels and presentations. It has 2,000 bands that play in a 6-day music festival. It will have more than 250 films screened in the South by Southwest Film Festival over the space of 9 days. Realize that most people, the majority of people, 90% of the people, 95% of people aren't staying anywhere close to 9 days. People usually come to Austin for 3 or 4 days and leave pretty exhausted and pretty inspired and pretty fulfilled with that. For locals who are attending, they maybe attend 2 or 3 days, take a day off to refresh and start the process again. But again, want to be clear that we would love people to stay 9 days, but that's probably too significant an investment for most of our attendees. If you are a creative professional who is working in the technology sector in one form or another, and the context there being almost everything is a technology job at this point, you're probably a little more interested in attending the first part of the week. And for 2020, that first part starts on Friday, March 13th and goes through, say, Tuesday, March 17th or Wednesday, March 18th. If you're a film person, you're probably also a little more interested in coming to the first part of the event. If you're a music person, you maybe come a little bit later when more of the bands are playing and more of the music conference content occurs. But I will also say that one of the big benefits of South by Southwest is that it is an event that mixes all these industries together in a form and fashion that few other events do. And one of the most magical aspects of the event is how these industries mix and match and how you can get inspiration and new knowledge and new ideas from someone outside of your particular profession. And that's always something that we encourage people who are attending South by Southwest, that if you're a food expert, don't go to the food panels, go to the sports panels or go to the fashion panels or go to the startup panels or go to the government panels and meet new people and broaden your connections and your ideas that way. That's one of the things that we really encourage people who are attending the event to do is to, on the one hand, we always want to find our tribe, but you will probably get the most out of South by Southwest if you take a chance and go outside of your tribe. And I think that is a lesson that appeals or applies to life as well as South by Southwest, that it's great to have a tribe that you belong to, but also don't be too timid to venture out and find new tribes.
Well, that is absolutely our philosophy here at the 365 First podcast, because it is all about doing things that you've never done before and exploring other options, because that is how you grow, you learn, you make new discoveries, and you improve who you are. What amazing advice that was. It is hard to follow sometimes, especially when if you go into a place and you're going to be by yourself and you don't know anyone. So let's talk a little bit more than how to make someone comfortable on how to further prepare for what to expect. So now we're going to talk to the audience. This is going to be your first time going. You have bought your badge, you have your hotel, your transportation. You're going to Austin. You might be going to Austin for the first time. You're in for a treat just for that. And you're going to land your first day, you check in. Well, actually, before you even get there, because there's an app where you can start deciding on your programs, on the things that you wanted to attend. So can you talk a little bit more about that, on how to prep before you even get there?
Sure. I think the most important concept there is in your question, which is to actually do some significant prep work and in advance of coming to Austin for South by Southwest. And when I say significant prep work, try to spend 30 minutes, an hour and a half, 2 hours browsing the schedule, finding the panels and presentations that you want to attend, finding the films that you might want to attend, the bands that you might want to see, the parties that you might want to attend, and kind of map out a strategy. And it's even better is if you start that process with thinking, what are my goals at South by Southwest? Am I trying to find a new job? Am I trying to just get inspired? Am I trying to meet new people? All of these are great things to do at South by Southwest. But again, I think really important to kind of come up with that concept before you come to Austin. And the reason for that, the biggest reason for that is, again, there's so many things that are happening at South by Southwest that if you don't have somewhat of a plan and somewhat of an idea, then it's fairly easy to get a feeling of being overwhelmed by the number of choices. That is, again, something that applies to life as well, is try to come up with a plan, what you want to do in the next year, 3 years, 5 years, completely fine to veer from that plan and change that plan. But better to have some kind of organizational plan from which to veer from, as opposed to being overwhelmed without any plan. I think another thing that could be very helpful if you're going to South by Southwest for the first time is find a buddy who you can share the experience with, whether it's someone you're traveling with from your hometown or whether it's someone you meet through the South by Social app who's also a first-time attendee, whether it's someone in Austin. But again, having someone that you experience the event with that gives you a little bit of safety and security in what can be sometimes a crowded situation can again improve your experience and help you a lot. My biggest, again, point of advice here, and very much applies to first-time attendees, although it applies to people who've been there before, is again, come up with a plan and write that plan down. Use the app to create your schedule. South by Southwest is an event that's famous for serendipitous interactions that, oh my God, look who I met in the line for this session, or look who I shared a cab with, or I was walking down the street and there was this famous person that I always wanted to meet. And that's great when that happens. But again, it's much better to have a plan and veer from that plan when serendipity happens, as opposed to banking that serendipity is going to happen immediately and be disappointed if it doesn't.
It doesn't. You said it was South by Social was the app to try and to connect with someone?
Yeah, there's once someone buys a badge, then you have access to a kind of our in-house social network, and lets you connect with other attendees. If you're looking to meet people, set up meetings, business meetings, you can use this and say, hey, I'm looking for I'm a startup, I'm looking for investors. Show me these investors that are coming to the event. And you can, again, create appointments that way, create meetings. But again, it's also can be used if you're simply looking to try to connect with people who are coming to the event for the first time, people who are interested in the same things that you're interested in, same kinds of sessions, same kinds of bands, same kinds of movies. It's a tool that helps you just set up some things before the event, which again can improve your experience significantly.
Wow. So this is very timely advice because, like I said, I'm signed up, I have a badge, and I read the newsletter and I keep saying I'm going to go back to the website and I'm going to start planning. And I haven't. And what you just mentioned is key. And there are definitely people that are going that I want to meet with. And so thank you. So to those listening, take the advice and let's plan our trip. Not our trip, but our attendance to South by Southwest so that we maximize what we gain out of it. Now, what about Austin and the different, so obviously it depends what tracks you go to, but is there a best way to maneuver around? So as you're deciding where to go, that is everything, because here in Las Vegas, when they have the CES, it's over multiple locations. It's actually impossible to switch tracks because you're not going to make it. What can people expect at South by Southwest? Am I in one building? Am I running from building to building?
The kind of center point building for South by Southwest is the Austin Convention Center. That's where people will pick up their badge when they come to Austin. Then we have sessions happening within the convention center, and then 3 or 4 hotels that are immediately adjacent to the convention center. Those hotels being the Hilton, the JW Marriott, the Four Seasons, and the Fairmont. It's pretty walkable, pretty easy to get from one spot to another. Definitely recommend for first-timers or multi-timers to wear shoes that are walkable because you will do a lot of walking. Transportation is definitely easier in the last few years with the advent of services such as Uber and Lyft, as well as scooters, as well as pedicabs. The downtown area does get very congested during South by Southwest, so those options are what you're going to want to use to get if you want to go somewhere that it's not walkable. But again, most of the action for South by Southwest happens within I would say, a 4 or 5 block area downtown, which is pretty walkable. Another point to consider here when you're attending South by Southwest is Austin weather in March. We are generally have an early spring, so typically we'll have warm days, kind of coolish nights, but it is not uncommon to get a late season cold front and get a few days of cold. So as always, the weather's a little bit unpredictable. That said, if you're coming from the East Coast, where it's still probably pretty cold in March, you'll be happy to enjoy a few days of Texas sunshine, Texas weather.
Yeah. Yes. Are there like key highlights in the schedule as far as guests or keynotes that people don't want to miss and should really know are going to be happening?
Well, the speakers that we think have the widest appeal are grouped as either keynotes or featured speakers. And that means they are in the biggest rooms to accommodate the biggest crowds. Many of those keynotes or featured speakers also are being simulcast. So if the room that they're in is at capacity, you can watch them in another room, or you can watch them on your smartphone or computer. For a lot of these bigger name speakers, if you really want to see the person, then you should plan to get to her presentation a little bit early. But I will also say that within this concept of planning for South by Southwest, often the most interesting content, whether that's a panel, whether that's a film, whether that's a band, happens when you just stumble into something and have no idea or preconception what it is, and you're amazed at, wow, how did I end up here? This is really, really interesting. This is exactly what I needed to see, to hear, to learn at this point in my journey. So if you're looking for a spot where you have that opportunity to just stumble into one place or stumble into another place and find something really neat, South by Southwest is the place to be.
Well, I love all these things that you're bringing up. Make the plan, but stay very open-minded and to some extent, let those things happen so that you are surprised, you fuel your creativity, and you do, in fact, get what you want out of your time there.
And I think another thing to mention is that whether it's South by Southwest or whether it is any other conference or event, try to be as open as possible about meeting people, shaking hands, giving out your business card. I'm pretty introverted, so that's hard for me to do. And I know that a lot of our community tends to be a little bit introverted, but that is something that will, again, powerfully enhance the quality of your experience. And you never can quite imagine what those small connections will lead to in the future, whether it's a friendship that goes on for many years, whether it is that person ends up helping you in your business or connects you to someone else who can help you in your business. Those small connections can lead to really, really huge things. And I think that the people who get the most out of events like South by Southwest are the ones that are aggressive but not obnoxious in terms of meeting people, saying hello, asking them how they're doing, what do you do, what are you enjoying here. If there's a connection, pass along your business card and follow up by email later if you want to. And I think that also points to one of the most important things about an event like South by Southwest. And I, again, keep saying like South by Southwest because there are lots of other really great events like South by Southwest out there. But these events are powerful reminders that we can do lots of things in the virtual world in 2020. We can connect lots of different ways by Facebook, by Twitter, by Instagram, by TikTok, by whatever social media channel there is, but there is nothing quite as powerful as face-to-face connections. And, again, that was true 30 years ago when we started South by Southwest. That's true now. And I'm sure and I'm fairly confident that will be true 30 years from now, that as much as we have new technologies that help us connect to people in new and effective ways, again, there is nothing as powerful as meeting someone face to face, establishing that connection. If there is a connection, saying, hey, let's sit down and see how we can work together, or can I email you later and see if there's some way that we can connect and do business together, or create a new project together. That's what events like South by Southwest are about. They help you make those connections that can lead to really, really big things.
Extremely wise advice. Now, you're also the man around town in Austin. It might be a first time in Austin for some people. Do you have some must recommendation for what to experience in Austin? Something to eat, a place to see that someone should not miss out on?
Austin is my hometown. I grew up here, so I am certainly not objective in terms of talking about its strengths and the weaknesses that it does not have. But there's lots of great food in the city. I think people coming to South by Southwest are particularly attuned to breakfast tacos, something that we specialize in a lot. People also love having Texas barbecue, and there are dozens of pretty neat barbecue places within easy walking distance of the convention center downtown. Probably the most famous of these barbecue places at this point is called Franklin's, but you might have to get in line for 8 or 10 hours for that. So that's a decision you have to make on your own. The city also has lots of great Tex-Mex, and at this point in its growth, it has just a bevy of restaurants of all different kinds of food. Very good restaurants, everything from sushi to Italian food, from French food to Chinese food, everything in between. So there's lots of great eating options. If you're coming to South by Southwest, you'll probably also enjoy walking along the hike and bike trail, which surrounds the river that bisects the city. So it's a great way to relax, enjoy the fresh air, see the wildflowers that are beginning to come out in March. And again, pretty easy to get to from the Austin Convention Center. We have a street with lots of pretty neat Texas type shops. That street is called South Congress. There'll be a lot of stuff going on during South by Southwest. So that's a fun place for folks to go also. Again, in my non-objective opinion, there's just a ton of fun things to do in the city, even more so during South by Southwest, when there is this air and vibe of creativity all over the city that just makes everything feel a little more magical and special and neat.
Well, thank you for all that information. I hope everyone's taking notes or re-listen to the episode. Make sure that you key in on getting to those places. And you did mention the pedicabs, which is a pretty Austin unique mode of transportation. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Pedicabs are what I always use for transportation during the event. And they will have their pedicabs in Austin every weekend, but certainly during South by Southwest, when we have so many tourists and so many visitors coming to Austin, we'll have pedicab drivers coming from all over the South to serve those visitors. So it's a pretty easy way to get fairly quickly if you're only traveling 2, 3, 4 blocks, and fun way to enjoy the outdoors also. Again, it's something that I tend to do a lot during the event. Certainly easier than trying to drive a car around and find parking, and probably safer than doing a scooter, although plenty of people are probably much more coordinated than I am in terms of riding scooters.
Excellent. Am I forgetting anything in regards to our first timers and how to best prepare?
Well, I can't emphasize enough that, again, the more time you spend thinking about what you are going to do at the event, thinking about what you want to achieve, I think the more positive an experience you'll have. I also know that it can be a stressful experience because there a lot of people. So it's always a good thing to remind folks to just relax, have fun. Everyone else is here to relax and have fun also. Enjoy the city, enjoy the event, be nice to people, and they will be nice to you back. And again, South by Southwest is all about community, whether that be the Austin community, the virtual community that comes together, the international community, this community of creative people. If you're bringing your own brand of creativity to Austin for South by Southwest, then you're what makes the event special. Have fun, relax, and enjoy one of America's coolest cities.
All right. It is a great city. Now, final question. What is a first time or new experience that's on your list?
I like traveling and am fortunate enough to be able to travel a lot at this point. I would say a first time destination, a place that I've never been, but would love to go to at some point soon would be somewhere within Africa. I've been to, I think, or many other continents, never been to Africa. So that is certainly something that is on my list of first-time things to try to accomplish soon.
Oh, well, that is awesome. And one of my soon-to-be upcoming guests, it's a show on first time going on a safari. So
wow.
that might be a show that's up your alley. I've been to Morocco. I definitely recommend Morocco. I did a mountain biking trip up in the High Atlas Mountains, and it's one of my top trips. And I've been to 41 countries, and that trip was incredible.
Sounds amazing.
Do you recommend Morocco? Or a safari? I have a safari on my list. Or go with a guest. So I'd like to educate myself while I educate others. Well, I really appreciate you being on the show, and taking the time out to help us out, to ensure that we have a much better experience as we head out to South by Southwest for the first time.
Well, thank you so much for letting me be a guest on the show. We look forward to hosting many of your audience. And I will also say that if you do have questions about South by Southwest that we were not able to answer in this short podcast, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is hugh@sxsw.com, hugh@sxsw.com. If I can't answer your question, I can probably find someone pretty smart on my staff who can, and we'd love to help you out with whatever questions you have about South by Southwest.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate you sharing your email with us as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much.